Welcome to Healthier, Happier You, the people working to make it happen. I'm Evan J. Cholfin from Luxhammer, where we help the brands that help you live healthier. Today, we're joined by Jeramy Freeman, former world champion bodybuilder, the inspiration for Mr. Incredible and CEO of Freeman Formula. With his wife Kim, they represent decades helping millions live more extraordinary lives through their Project 42 transformation program and their breakthrough supplement upgrade. Jeramy, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Evan.
Glad to have you. What inspired you to transition from world champion bodybuilding to creating Freeman Formula?
Well, it didn't all, of course, happen at once. I was in bodybuilding and my background is in biochemistry. So essentially, they kind of melded together very, very well because when you understand how the body works and how things work in your body, it's easier to be able to manipulate your body. So, most bodybuilders they're the ones that are out there testing all the new products and trying all the new things. And they're the original biohackers, essentially. And so, I was kind of my own biohacker. And of course, I worked with a lot of different companies over the years. And doing this or in evolving in my business, the evolution of creating products just became part of what I did because I was doing it actually for other companies. And my wife was a big inspiration for that. She was always the one that was ahead of the curve saying, Jeremy, you need to do this next. And she'd tell me over and over again until I finally decided, okay, I'm going to do that now. Essentially, you need to start your own product line. And she'd probably told me that for 5, 6 years, but I was always with another company working for them, endorsing them, and also educating with their products. I was always getting paid. So I was like, I can't go off on my own and do this if I'm already getting paid by somebody else and under a contract. It evolved into creating my own business. And of course, during that time, I was doing transformation programs with my clientele, and it was an easy introduction because I was always already recommending products to my clients, but they weren't my products. So essentially, I created a better version of everything that I thought they would need, create things out of client need. And that's how I went from essentially bodybuilding. During that time, I never just was a bodybuilder. I always ran my business. I always ran my personal training business from day one, from way back in 1992. And so I never stopped doing that. I know a lot of guys when they were bodybuilding, that's all they did. I enjoyed the process of working with people and helping empower them. That's really what I felt like, the mission was for me to empower them to be better versions of themselves and to see the better side of themselves. Because a lot of times when somebody comes in, they're beat down, they've lost the vision of their best version of themselves, and kind of help them reignite that.
That's great. I love that. So, how does your unique understanding of the body mind spirit connection influence your approach?
It does influence my approach a lot because I work with a lot of business owners too. They come to me for productivity. And so performance and productivity are not really one and the same. So a lot of times people want to have a higher performance, and productivity is part of that. But essentially, what I would do with them is I would go back to what it is that actually would motivate them, what would drive them. Because a lot of times they're searching for something external of themselves, something that that's not going to keep them on track for an extended period of time. And so for me, early on in my training clientele, I had to go from leading my clients to showing them that they were the leader, not me. Well, I'll just go into that real quickly because it just kind of, shows the evolution too. When I first started training people, I again wanted them to be their best. I felt like I wanted it for them more than they wanted it for themselves. I was super ambitious. I was like, okay, listen, if you're going to want to lose weight, you're going to have to get up and get your cardio done before you go to work. And so, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, get up a little earlier. And, a lot of my clients would come to me and say, well, it's hard for me to get up. I'm like, you know what? When I'm going and doing my cardio, why don't you guys just join me? So one client, two clients, 10 clients. Okay. They're meeting me at the gym in the morning. And now I'm, trying to rev them all up to get this cardio going, doing intervals way back before intervals were even popular. And I'm busting it out with them, right? Getting them going. And so they get a good workout. I wasn't charging them or anything, but I was there doing it myself anyways, right? So what I came to find was that whenever I said, "Hey guys, I'm not going to be able to make it there tomorrow," well, I would find out. I say, "Hey, how did cardio go?" We didn't go. I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean you didn't go?" And so what was happening is I was leading them, I was encouraging them, motivating them, But if I didn't show up, they didn't show up. I realized it started happening more and more. And so I had an epiphany at that time that, you know what? I cannot be the one that is leading them. I have to show them that they're the leader and that when you're the leader, you have to take responsibility for yourself. You have to be the one that's committed. You have to have the one that has a vision that is leading you or guiding you. What I call spirit is the things we can't see, the unseen. So thought number one is spirit. It's unseen. It's the creative force that we work with. Anything you see around you, that if you look around, it was first an idea or a thought. So I think of spirit as thought, idea, and vision. I would always start with vision because vision is the greatest aspect of thought. So the way I can explain this real quickly, this is a little off track, is I take thinking a word like integrity. Think about integrity. As I got into leadership, I started talking about integrity because if somebody's going to actually tie into a program and commit to it, then they have to have integrity. So just to kind of take the growing process of the word integrity from thought to idea to vision, this is kind of what I would explain to my clients. Okay. The word integrity, it's a powerful word. We all know what it means. It's essentially the definition of integrity. It's doing the right thing at all times and doing what you said you would do to the best of your ability. Okay, we all know it's a great word, but if you think of the idea of integrity, the idea of integrity is really integrity in action. You can see it in yourself having integrity in action or somebody else. And of course, when you see it, you can kind of feel it. It feels good when you see the idea of it. What I would tell my clients is create this vision of yourself, the best version of you, and let the foundation of that vision of you be one that's founded in integrity. If you were to be a person of integrity rather than being this vision, the vision is multifaceted because you can look at it from 1,000 different angles and 1,000 different situations and say, if I had integrity, if I was a person of integrity, what would I do in this situation? Well, your answer becomes clear. You're not indecisive anymore, you're decisive. And so what I would tell them is, listen, take this greater vision that you have outside of yourself and embody it. Okay, take integrity and embody it. Like if you were to embody integrity and say, I am integrity, it's part of who I am, now it defines you. It defines you and it defines your choices. So now you know what you would do in the next 5 minutes and you know what you wouldn't do. If you were tested a week from now, what you would accept and what you wouldn't accept. In 50 years from now, if someone did this, or that, and asked you what would happen, you wouldn't say, "Oh, I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I get there." No, you know what you will do, what you won't do, what your yeses are, what your nos are. It creates polarity. It creates strength in your decision making. And so, essentially, when you embody integrity, it changes you as a human being and the way you operate in the world. Rather than it being something external of you, let the vision be a part of you. When you allow it to be a part of you, that polarity, just like in chemistry, just like in science, polarity creates magnetism. The stronger that polarity, the stronger the magnetism, and the more you're going to be able to pull people into you because you're doing the right thing. Think about it. Integrity builds trust. People trust you. They know you're responsible. There's a whole plethora of different characteristics that come along with integrity. And so in building the foundation of these clientele, I would say, listen, you're the leader. But if I said that in the beginning, when I kept telling them that, like, well, I don't know, I just want somebody to tell me what to do. So there's a big learning process in me going about showing them that they're a leader without saying you're the leader. That would take hours to go over, but still, that was the process. The process was turning it around. I'm not leading. You are the leader. If you have a vision, let that vision of who you want to be and how you want to look and how you want to feel and the life you want to live, let that lead you because the vision is what always leads the leader. For me, for bodybuilding, my vision was to be a pro bodybuilder. So my thoughts, my words, and my actions all had to be in alignment. Spirit, mind, and body. Spirit was the vision of me being a championship bodybuilder. In order for me to have that vision, that spirit, I would have to think strong, think powerful, not think weak thoughts, and not minimize myself. I'd have to speak strong. I'd have to tell myself I'm strong, even when I felt weak. My choices of what I ate and how often I ate and whether I did my cardio or didn't, got up in the morning or slept in, or sat on the couch or went and trained. Every thought, word, and action was pointed and served that vision. It served the vision. That's what I try to teach my clients is listen, find a vision that excites you and that serve that vision in the way you think, the way you speak, and the way you act, your actions all day long. If you do, you're going to find that you move toward whatever goal it is, whatever vision it is, extremely fast. That's essentially where Project 42 came into line because I wanted to show them if you have a tight timeline and you can plug in all the key elements of what it takes to go from point A to point B and give yourself that timeline. I gave them a structure for how to be able to complete a goal fast in a timely fashion, but yet you got to apply yourself.
Well, I'm curious what's been working particularly well in Project 42 and your transformation programs.
That program was probably one of the most successful transformation programs, I would say, probably in the world. Truthfully, we even had the CEO of back at that time, it was Planet Fitness and World's Gym when they were emerging, came out from Palm Desert to Syracuse, New York, and said, how in the world are you getting $1,500 for a 6-week program when we're having a problem getting a couple $100 for a year membership? I said, well, you got two different models of business here. You guys got the funnel where at the top, you're trying to bring everybody in. And then down at the bottom here, you're trying to sell them something big. I said, my funnel's flipped upside down. I talk to every single person that comes through this door and I sell them the biggest program because I'm selling them their dream. I'm selling something intangible, but again, it's their dream. I have to ask a lot of questions to find out what it is that gives them passion and helps, get them motivated and inspired. Once I know what that is, I can help them build that. And then I can say, I can give you the program that's going to help you get there. I was selling a dream. And so once they spend that $1,500, paying for a membership, paying for, all types of supplements, those are secondary. They're already tied in. They're already tied in. For me, if you paid that $1,500, you are required to show up. If you don't show up, we're calling you over and over again until you get back in there. And so on the Planet Fitness scale, hopefully you sign up, but never show up. It's exact opposite. So they wanted to pair with me at that time. I was like, absolutely not. I said, we got two ends of the spectrum that are not going to work together, and I wouldn't do it. So, anyways, that program was a transformative. We had people that had lost, our average fat loss was 42 pounds in 42 days. And that was, we had a lot of people, of course, for weight loss, but then it kind of transformed into a goal attainment program because, a lot of people would do it and they'd lose their weight and get in shape. But we had a lot of business owners. And so, of course, during that time, I started doing business coaching as well. And again, behind the scenes is always about leadership. It's always about self-leadership. Sometimes in business, leading others as well, but it's self-leadership first and then leadership within business. But Project 42, it was unparalleled. Like we had waiting lists. We could only fit about 150 people at a time. We had as many as 163, so we squeezed in a few more, but that's all we could take. We literally would run the program, but we'd have waiting lists for the next program. So it was a huge undertaking. I had a whole team of trainers, and my job was to actually lead them and make sure that they knew every person's name, any injuries they had, to alter exercises if there was any types of injuries that they had to, or movements they had to avoid. We did all the small details that most people don't do. It was all the little things that made the big difference. So people were happy to actually pay that amount of money because they were transforming, they were changing, and there was a whole week before Project 42 even started that had entirely to do with mindset, with creating your vision, creating the goal, and knowing specifically what it is that you're going to do during those 42 days that's different than you've ever done before in your life, and be ready for it, prepare yourself mentally, and then get right into it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so let's talk upgrade. What's the core problem upgrade solves that other brain supplements don't?
That's a great question. Upgrade was made out of client need. One of the things I realized real early on, of course, when I'm talking about vision, is that vision is a right brained activity. But we live in a world where 98% of people are left brained, meaning that they need to know all the details. They have to analyze everything. They have to make sure to see if somebody else has done it before. Again, check out the reviews, all these things. It's good. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. We have information at our fingertips in today's world, even more so now than even when I was doing it back then. We're even more left brained now than we've ever been. Realize that, when people are analyzing these things or dissecting everything, I would give them a very specific plan so that they could tie into it. But again, when I'm talking about vision, they had a hard time grasping onto it. It's like, just give me the plan. I don't really, I don't know if this is good for me. This feels too airy fairy. I'm like, listen, if you let this drive you, it'll lead you and it'll help guide your choices. This is powerful. And the people that did, latch onto that greater vision, they did great. It's a right brain activity though. In this whole process of creating products, I thought to myself, what is one product that I would love to create that I feel like is a real need? And so I started, of course, studying the brain and looking into post-stroke victims, traumatic brain injury, Alzheimer's, dementia, ED, ADHD, all these different things, and literally went down a rabbit hole of just studying all those things. The process essentially was creating something that would allow the blood to primarily go from that limbic state, that limbic brain, the back part of the brain, to the prefrontal cortex. What happens when you're left brained, you overanalyze everything. And you usually overanalyze to the point where you're operating in a perspective of worry, doubt, and fear. You're analyzing like, I'm worried if I do this, that this might not really work for me. And I see that some other people didn't really work for them. So it's probably not going to work for me. Or I doubt that I can get results from this because, I've tried so many things and it hasn't worked for me before. I fear that if I spend my money on this, that I'm not going to get my return. And I spent so much money already before. And, again, so again, when you're in that limbic brain, and you're over analyzing everything, when you analyze with worry, doubt, and fear, it automatically creates chemicals in your body that pushes the blood into the limbic brain. Okay. We're creating a simulated state of stress. You're in a stress state. You're producing stress chemicals. When you're in that state, now you are reactive and you most likely do nothing. Okay. That's really what happens. That's one of the reasons why productivity is so low in the world today, is because people are number one and number two ingredients consumed is sugar number one and caffeine number two. Well, caffeine creates that simulated state of stress where the blood's in the limbic part of the brain and you're reactive. Do you have more energy? Yeah, it's stimulant energy, but you're reactive. The blood's back here. You want the blood to be in the prefrontal cortex, the front part of the brain where you have clear, concise, creative, focused thought. And that's what Upgrade does. It puts the blood in the front part of the brain where you can actually think about it outside of the box and create a greater vision and see more possibility. It puts the blood in the right part of the brain where now you're in control. You feel in control and you're more proactive to your day and you're in the driver's seat. So that's what it does. One of the main ingredients is alpha GPC. We've all seen that. It's been very popular over the last few years. We've had that in our formula for over 18 years. And we use the most bioavailable form, alpha GPC, 100%. It converts into acetylcholine. As you may know, alpha GPC converts into acetylcholine. And acetylcholine is the main neurotransmitter in the brain that sends the signals and delivers it. So you're sending them quicker and delivering it. It's also your body's main motor neurons. It connects the brain and the body. So it kind of brings it all together as one unit. Great for athleticism too. So essentially, creating this product, we wanted to help wake the brain up and get it firing on all cylinders. Because when you take a caffeinated product and you're simulating state of stress, your stress chemicals, it depletes acetylcholine. And you're not sending the signals, you're not delivering it. So your brain starts getting depleted of it. When it's depleted, you can't think straight. You're like, where did I put those keys? Man, what was that person's name? Like all these different things. You have those forgetful moments. I want to try to overcome that. And of course, all the studies out there said for people that are rewiring their brains, a larger amount is required. However, if you don't direct the acetylcholine and the increase in the system, then what happens is you can feel a little anxious because it is an excitatory neurotransmitter. So is this too much information?
No, this is great.
Okay,
Yeah.
so essentially, Upgrade, what it does, it has another ingredient in there called shishandrol. You may have heard of shishandrol. Everybody talks about, a lot of different adaptogens. It's an adaptogen. They talk about like ashwagandha and quite a few other ones, but shishandrol is very, very powerful. There's a lot of studies on shishandrol because shishandrol actually is one of the more powerful adaptogens. What adaptogen does, it's a herb that helps you more adequately deal with stress. The way it does that is it actually pushes the blood to the prefrontal cortex, the front part of the brain. That way you're calmer, you're more in control, you're more dialed in. When you wake the brain up and then you put the blood in the right portion of it, now you're like, wow, I think this is how I'm supposed to feel. I forgot what it feels like to be in control and feel like I'm on point. And that's what Upgrade does. And there's, of course, L-theanine does the same thing. That's in there as well. And again, it helps to calm you and it brings the blood to the prefrontal cortex as well. There's a lot of other different ingredients in there as well. But those are the two main ones that really kind of get the brain woken up, the body woken up, firing all cylinders. And it's not a caffeinated product. It's exact opposite. It's in a bottle that looks like a 5-hour energy bottle, but it's the opposite. It's literally the opposite. 5-hour, put your blood back here. Upgrade puts the blood right here, and you are in a whole different position, and you're ready to tackle your day and literally check shit off your list like nobody's business.
That's great. So, changing topics a bit, what's been your biggest challenge in growing Freeman Formula this year?
This year, we have tried to transition into doing maybe a little bit. We have not pulled the trigger on like different types of marketing. We had such a great clientele and client list that we've lived off that list for years. And of course, we had all kinds of brick and mortar, and the brick and mortar, they still order large amounts of product. There's times when we have gotten comfortable with this business. There's no question. We've had times where it just kind of stays, it grows very easily and it stays pretty steady. We have been looking into doing things like TikTok Shop, using influencer marketing. The next step for us is getting into that. We do have somebody as an Amazon vendor for us, but we feel like we need to do our own Amazon as well. We do have fulfillment down here in Florida now, so we can, of course, take on or tackle something like, let's say, TikTok Shop that really takes off, like some of these products do. Like I've seen like candles and dish soap, or laundry detergent. It's like you see these things, are like, oh my God, these things are selling like crazy. So something like Upgrade just seems like it would do really, really well. And there's a lot of nootropics out there, and I try them. I go out and try them. But I'm telling you right now, there's nothing like Upgrade. Our one ingredient, the shashandrol that we use, it usually comes in a 12% standardized form. We use a 98 to 99% concentration. Just to be able to compound that down costs us $8,500 for a single kilo. It's not a cheap product to make. It costs a lot, but again, it's got super high quality ingredients in it. And when you take it, you know it, you feel it.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. So, I'm curious, how are you handling the supply chain and ingredient sourcing challenges?
We did have challenges with that, but I always kind of forecast the future a little bit. We've always tried to buy ahead. We have bought way ahead at large quantities of raw material that ends up not being as much of an issue for us. But the cost of some of these ingredients have gone up tremendously. I mean, just since COVID. Here we are, 5 years later, essentially 4 years later, and still those costs have not really come down. They're still way up there. So I still never changed. Our margin got squashed a little bit, but I've never changed the pricing for us. I kept it the same because it already is a relatively high price point product. In manufacturing, the good thing is that we have a great team, so we can keep up with any demand. If literally it were to blow up today online, then we would be able to supply that demand.
That's great. So, what do you think makes it difficult to stand out in today's nootropics market?
I think just like any products, I've got 17, 18 products that I've created. And so, fortunately, again, I had an in-house audience where it was everything sold quickly with that audience. But in today's world, I think that every product, doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you can produce the best brain formula in the world, which I believe I have. But that's 10%. 10% is the product. No matter how good it is. 90% is the marketing. Marketing is key. And sometimes you're not speaking the language of everybody else. Listen, if I were to promote it by talking about all the ingredients like I just did, it's hard for me not to because biochemistry is in my blood. Then most people's eyes would glaze over and they would be like, I don't know. But the bottom line is the marketing and the verbiage and the way you present it, all those things are so incredibly important. In today's world, marketing is the busiest marketplace out there. Everybody's always marketing their next thing and the next shiny object or how it can help you. And it's sometimes over marketed to the point where you're like, can't even be true. Sometimes Upgrade, when we talk about it, sounds like it can't be true. But then we have people that are like, man, this stuff is amazing. Our product is a product that when you try it, you're like, there's something different about this. And I feel the difference, and my performance is different. My clarity, my everything is dialed in. Your focus is a rare commodity in today's world. So essentially, you're selling focus. As a matter of fact, statistics show that A goldfish has a longer attention span than humans now. A goldfish is at 7 seconds, and I'm sorry, humans at 7 seconds, a goldfish at 8 seconds. So pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are your main growth targets for this year?
We're late to the show when it comes to, again, the online marketing that we want to do with influencers. We intended to uh, get started with that, but we again wanted to make sure that we had a true handle on production. We just moved our full factory down here to Florida. And so, of course, having just moved that a while back, you still have to go through all the process of moving it, setting it up, getting the right people in to get your GMP and all the different things that come along with manufacturing. That process just takes a little longer than you want it to. In business, we're impatient. We want things to happen now, but we got to also cross our T's, dot our I's. That has been a stalling point for us, that we have to wait. We produce enough product up north to be able to hold us probably for the next 6 months or more before we moved operations down here. So, I would go up there all the time before, but I had to have my whole team working there. And now that we have it here, we can produce as much as we need to on demand as often as we need to. That's been the sticking point, truthfully, is being able to make sure that we have control of all shipping and production.
That's great. And how are you currently acquiring most of your new customers?
You know what? It's still, we got a lot. We have tons of referrals. We haven't really been working that hard to bring in a lot of new customers, but I have another business that's called Lasting Confidence. Lasting Confidence actually is a weight loss center. We were providing things like the semaglutide, tirzepatide, and things of that nature, different peptides. We would just, throw an upgrade with an informational packet in that to that business. It's a separate business, but people are like, oh, this stuff's great. That right there is just, cross marketing. That's really been pretty great right there.
Yeah, it's really smart. And what trends in nootropics and brain health excite you most?
The thing that excites me most, truthfully, is again over that it's more popular now. It's more accepting now. Back when I was first doing this, like I had this product that was amazing. You know, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you a quick story. When I first came out with the product, it was in a pill form. I'd take 3 of the pills. I got home after work. I worked long days. I was writing this book, and it's called "Don't Waste a Minute." It took me like 10 years to write. Don't waste a minute. Anyways, I was finishing it up, and I took the 3 pills, and I literally was just so incredibly dialed in that I was going through everything I'd written over the last years. And I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense anymore. This doesn't go. Throw this out. Get rid of this. Okay, put this here. Put this here. Da, 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 and literally organized the whole thing. And then I literally couldn't. I didn't sleep. I was so dialed in and so focused in and so inspired at that time that I just kept writing, 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 and getting it all set up. And then I literally went to work the next day, and it's going at 5 in the morning, and just I worked right straight through and went in. But I felt amazing. I was like, oh my god, this is so great. And so, of course, toward the end of the day, I was pretty tuckered. But I got home. I was like, man, that was so great. I took more. I did this 2 days in a row. And the same thing again. I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing. I finished that book in a week. I did sleep, of course, the next few days. I slept like crazy because I needed to. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody, but the organization of the book is what was holding me up, and then making it flow the right way. All of a sudden, I was in this flow state where I was able to really bring it together. Then I realized I don't have enough money to market nootropics, because when I talked about nootropic, I was like, oh, I don't want to touch that. Something that's going to affect my brain. No way. Like, half the stuff you take affects your brain chemistry, but they didn't want to hear it. People will do more for their teeth than they will for their brain, right? Especially back then. Now, a little bit, people are more, accepting of it. I decided, well, this gives you great energy too. And so I decided to put it in that little 5-hour energy bottle because it screams energy. I can market energy with brain because it wasn't popular back then. Well, now it is popular. Now everybody wants nootropics. Everybody's looking at nootropics. What I'm excited about is that people are aware of it. People are educating themselves. They're understanding it. And so, again, there's a lot of options out there, but most of them are still very stimulant based. There's a lot of them that still have a lot of stimulants. So this is not stimulant based. It's a different animal.
Yeah. So, what's going to be crucial to get right in the next year?
Well, I feel like, again, the conversation, about upgrade is probably has to really kind of point out those things like we talked about. I think we got to go back and say, hey, listen, guys, if you're living on coffee, if you're living on your Monster or your energy drinks or whatever any drink that's out there, your fiber or whatever, there's a ton of caffeinated products out there. I mean, the number one was like C5 or something like that, or C something. It had like 500 milligrams of caffeine in it. Nobody should be taking that. But essentially, that's what people are living on. That's what's fueling their tank. If you're taking that much caffeine and you're living on 5, 6 cups of coffee or whatever it is, then you are definitely in a simulated state of stress all day long. You are actually depleting your acetylcholine, the main neurotransmitter in your brain, transmitter in your brain. And when you're depleting that, you are not going to be your best. You're not sending the signals. You're not delivering them. You're actually depleting it because it literally breaks down the acetylcholine in that state. I think the transition in the conversation has to go from, hey guys, listen, if you're doing these things to get by, you want to be able to transfer from that limbic part of the brain where you're in a stress state to being totally in control, focused, and dialed in and have clarity. Listen, clarity is key because if you know where you're headed and why you're going there, then it's easier to go directly there. Whereas if you're like, I'm not really sure, I got 10 things I'm trying to manage all at once, good luck. Good luck getting there.
Yeah, for sure. So if we had this conversation again in 12 months, what would make you feel it's been a successful year?
I would really like to transition truthfully almost out of the brick and mortar market. That's a tough thing to say because they order large lots, so you're talking, big money for pallets. I just feel like, we are in a digital world. Okay. We all shop on our phones. We want instant gratification. There it is. Boom, click out. And when I see what's going on the digital marketplace, especially on things like TikTok, I feel like that's where we belong because this is a product where we can give margin to influencers so that they can actually make some money on the product rather than giving that. So for me, it's always like, hey, listen, I can empower people to be the best version of themselves, but how can I help them make some money? Because the number one stress people have is money. If I can help somebody make money and give that margin away to somebody who is going to promote it, I would love to do that over essentially sending it to a distributor who's taking it into the retail market. Now that would take a big, change, a lot of change for us because now shipping to individuals. But I feel like that's the way to go. The way we shop nowadays is different than it's ever been before. We're all doing shoppable video and people are talking about their product and saying, hey, check it out. It's like their own QVC channel. I know that is the wave of the future. You have to keep up with marketing trends if you want to be able to grow and move forward and make progress. This product's been around for a while. It does need, a different language probably and a different space for marketing and to be seen.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, I certainly hope that in 12 months we'll be talking about all the success that you're getting in the DDC market. I welcome that to happen.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it for today's episode of A Healthier, Happier You, the people working to make it happen. A huge thank you to Jeramy Freeman for sharing his insights. The amazing work Freeman Formula is doing to help people live healthier, happier lives. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could benefit. And if you're a brand or business making an impact in health, wellness, or personal care, we'd love to help you grow. Connect with me at luxhammer.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep making a difference.